Tom was a cowboy who lived at the edge of a quiet town. He had spent most of his life on the open fields, riding his old horse and tending to his small ranch. His hat was worn, and his boots were dusty from long days in the sun. He had a quiet and kind nature, and everyone in town knew him as a hard-working man. By his side always was Max, his loyal border collie. Max was smart and fast, and he never left Tom's side no matter what. People often laughed at Tom and his simple ways. They thought he did not belong in places of wealth or luxury, but Tom did not care about what others thought. He was content with his simple life, the open fields, and the companionship of Max. One morning, Tom heard about a luxury auction coming to the town. It was the first time such an event had arrived there. Rich people from far away would come to bid on cars, jewelry, paintings, and other expensive items. Some townspeople were excited while others laughed at the idea that a cowboy might attend. Tom was curious. He did not have much money, but he liked to see new things. He thought it could be interesting, so he decided to go. Max wagged his tail as if he understood that something unusual was about to happen. When Tom arrived at the auction hall, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The building was large and shiny, filled with sparkling lights. Inside, wealthy people walked gracefully, wearing suits and fancy dresses. The air smelled of polished wood and new fabric. Tom felt out of place in his dusty boots and old hat. As he stepped in, he noticed people staring at him. Some whispered, "Who invited the cowboy?" Others laughed quietly, pointing at him. One man even said, "Look at him. He doesn't belong here." Tom ignored the whispers. He focused on Max, who walked calmly beside him. The dog's presence gave him confidence. He knew he had nothing to prove to anyone. Tom moved slowly through the hall, looking at the tables covered with sparkling jewelry, elegant watches, and delicate sculptures. Every item was expensive and shiny. Tom admired them, not because he wanted to buy them, but because he liked seeing how people created and valued beautiful things. At the center of the hall, the auctioneer raised his gavel and announced the start of the auction. The first item was a golden watch with a diamond-studded face. People clapped and raised paddles to bid. Tom watched silently, studying how the auction worked. People around him laughed again, whispering, "Is he really going to bid? He probably cannot even read the numbers." Max growled softly at the comments as if defending his master. Tom smiled gently at the dog. He did not mind the laughter. He had heard it many times before. As the auction continued, Tom noticed a few children looking at him curiously. They were not laughing like the adults. One little girl whispered to her friend, "Why is he here? He looks different, but he seems nice." Tom looked at the children and waved slightly. Max barked softly and the children giggled. For a moment, Tom felt happy. Even in a place where people judged him for being simple, kindness and curiosity still existed. Then Tom's attention shifted to a small wooden box displayed on a table near the stage. It looked ordinary compared to the other glittering items, but something about it caught his eye. The auctioneer described it as a mystery item and said its contents were unknown until the winner opened it. The crowd laughed at the idea. "Who would want a plain wooden box?" one person said. Tom, however, felt a spark of curiosity. He liked surprises and challenges, and something told him that this box was special. He walked closer to the table, studying the box carefully. Max sat beside him, tail wagging slightly. The rich guest continued to laugh quietly, thinking the cowboy had no chance at winning something valuable. Tom remained calm. He did not need wealth or recognition. His interest in the box was not about money, but about the unknown and the excitement of discovery. As the auctioneer prepared to start the bidding for the wooden box, Tom raised his hand slowly. The room went silent. No one expected the quiet cowboy to participate. People leaned forward in curiosity, and some still smiled at the thought of him making a mistake. Max sat quietly, looking up at Tom with eyes full of trust. Tom felt a strange excitement. He did not know what the box contained, but he knew that something interesting was about to happen. The whispers and laughter faded as the auctioneer called Tom's number. All eyes were on him. Some wealthy guests tried to raise the stakes, believing they could outbid him easily. Tom simply raised his paddle when he felt it was the right moment. The crowd was stunned. For the first time that day, the laughter turned into quiet attention. Tom had entered the auction not with money but with patience, focus, and curiosity. Max sat proudly by his side, as if he knew that his master had already won something far greater than wealth. attention, and respect for his courage. The wooden box had caused a stir in the auction hall. People whispered among themselves, curious about why a simple cowboy like Tom would be interested in it. Many still laughed quietly, thinking it was just a joke, but Tom did not mind. He was used to being underestimated, and he had learned long ago that appearances often fooled people. Max sat faithfully at his side, watching the crowd with calm, intelligent eyes. The auctioneer tapped the gavel and called for the next item, a sparkling diamond necklace. The wealthy guests cheered and raised their paddles to bid. Tom watched quietly, admiring the elegance of the necklace but feeling no desire to own it. He understood beauty, but he valued usefulness and honesty more than wealth or glitter. As the auction continued, some guests could not resist teasing him. A woman in a bright blue dress pointed at Tom and whispered to her friend, "Do you think he knows anything about these expensive things? He looks like he just rode in from the prairie." Her friend laughed softly, nodding. Max growled lightly at the remark, alerting Tom. Tom looked down at Max and smiled. The dog's loyalty and understanding made him feel strong. He knew he did not need anyone's approval. Tom's attention returned to the wooden box. The auctioneer finally announced that bidding would begin. People around him started to laugh again. "The cowboy is really going to bid. He will fail," someone said. Tom raised his hand calmly. The room quieted as the auctioneer acknowledged him. Bidding began slowly. A few guests tried to raise the price, thinking it would embarrass him. Tom stayed patient, observing the crowd and calculating his moves. He knew that winning the box was not about money, but about curiosity and determination. Max stayed alert, his eyes following every movement in the hall. As the bidding increased, Tom noticed that some of the laughing guests were beginning to pay attention. They were curious now, not because of ridicule, but because he seemed calm and confident. One tall man in a black suit raised his paddle, hoping to outbid the cowboy. Tom waited for the right moment, then raised his paddle in return. Max barked once as if approving the decision. The room went silent. People were no longer laughing. They watched in surprise as the cowboy stayed in the game with steady focus. Finally, the auctioneer announced that Tom had won the wooden box. A hush fell over the crowd. Many people could not believe it. The same people who had laughed just moments ago were now staring at him with curiosity and even a little respect. Tom accepted the box carefully, holding it with both hands. Max wagged his tail quietly, sensing the excitement in the room. Tom walked to a small table at the front of the hall. Everyone followed, eager to see what was inside. The rich guests expected a simple trinket, perhaps something cheap or ordinary. But Tom's calm demeanor made them uneasy. They had underestimated him, and now they waited to see what the quiet cowboy had discovered. He opened the box slowly. Inside were several folded papers. At first glance, they seemed old and ordinary, but Tom handled them with care. He spread the papers on the table and looked at them thoughtfully. The crowd leaned in closer, curiosity growing. The papers contained detailed sketches and designs of new machines and tools. There were plans for energy-saving devices, water purifiers, and simple tools that could make life easier for many people. Tom smiled quietly. He understood the value of these designs. They were not just pieces of paper. They were ideas that could change the way people lived. A wealthy man stepped forward, his eyes wide with surprise. "Where did you find these?" he asked. Tom looked at him and replied calmly, "These belong to my family. They were kept safe for years. I want to use them to build things that help people, not just to sell them for money." The crowd grew silent. They had expected a joke, but now they realized the truth. The quiet cowboy who had been laughed at was not ordinary at all. He was clever, brave, and had a vision for the future. Max barked happily, wagging his tail. The dog seemed proud of his master, knowing that Tom's patience and honesty had won more than just a box. He had won respect. People began to murmur among themselves. Some nodded quietly, impressed by his determination. Others tried to offer advice, but Tom shook his head politely. He wanted to work honestly and carefully. He had no need for shortcuts or gifts from the wealthy. His goal was to use the designs for something meaningful, something that could make a real difference in the world. Tom carefully packed the papers back into the box. Max sat beside him, alert and loyal as ever. The laughter of the morning had disappeared. In its place was quiet admiration. People who had mocked him now watched with interest. realizing that appearances could be deceiving. The cowboy After the auction, Tom and Max walked back toward the small ranch that had been his home for many years. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. Max trotted beside him, sometimes looking up to make sure Tom was still walking steadily. Tom carried the wooden box carefully. He was not in a hurry, but his mind was buzzing with thoughts about the papers inside. Tom had always loved to work with his hands. He enjoyed solving problems, fixing broken tools and building small machines that could help on the ranch. Now with these new designs, he felt a new kind of excitement. The papers were not just drawings, they were instructions, plans, and ideas that could help many people. Tom knew that if he worked carefully and patiently, he could turn these ideas into real inventions. As he approached his ranch, Tom thought about the people at the auction. They had laughed at him, but that did not bother him now. Their laughter had no meaning because he knew his own worth. Max barked softly and Tom laughed quietly. The dog seemed to sense his master's determination. Tom opened the gate to the ranch and let Max run into the wide field. The dog jumped and played for a moment before returning to stand beside him. Tom set the wooden box on a small table in the workshop. Dust filled the air as he opened it again and began examining the papers. He spread them out carefully. There were drawings of small machines, tools, and devices that could make life easier for people who did not have much money. There were ideas for water filters, simple energy devices, and tools for farming. Tom's eyes shone with excitement. These were not ordinary inventions. They were clever, useful, and could help a lot of people. He worked late into the evening, studying every page. He took notes in a small notebook, thinking about how he could make each invention work in real life. Max lay nearby, keeping watch. Occasionally, he would nudge Tom with his nose or bark softly if he thought something needed attention. Tom smiled each time, grateful for the dog's constant company. The next morning, Tom began gathering materials from his workshop. He had simple tools, wood, metal, and a few basic machines. He knew that the inventions in the papers would require careful planning and effort. He started with a small device that could clean water using simple methods. He worked slowly and patiently, following the instructions in the papers. Max watched every movement, sometimes bringing tools or small items to help as if he understood the importance of the work. By midday, Tom had completed the first small prototype. He tested it carefully, making adjustments when needed. The water came out clean and clear. Tom smiled proudly. It worked exactly as the plans described. Max barked happily, running in small circles around the workshop. Tom laughed softly, feeling proud. This was the beginning of something important. Word of Tom's work began to spread quietly through the town. Neighbors who had once laughed at him started visiting, curious to see what he was doing. They saw the machines, the tools, and the careful work he was putting into every invention. Some offered advice, while others quietly helped by bringing extra materials or simple tools. Tom accepted the help politely but insisted that he wanted to do the work himself. He wanted each invention to be a product of patience, thought, and effort. As the days passed, Tom's confidence grew. He realized that the wooden box had given him more than just papers. It had given him an opportunity to show what he could do. The rich people at the auction had laughed at him, but they did not know that he had a mind for invention and a heart for helping others. Max stayed by his side every step of the way, loyal and attentive. Together they worked steadily, turning ideas into reality. One evening, as the sun sank below the hills, Tom looked at the small water filter he had completed. It was simple, but it worked perfectly. He thought about the auction and the people who had laughed at him. He did not feel anger or sadness. Instead, he felt calm and proud. Laughter did not matter. What mattered was patience, hard work, and the courage to follow one's own path. Max barked softly, resting his head on Tom's leg. Tom patted him gently, smiling. They had begun something important, and together they would see it through. From that day, Tom continued to build, improve, and test each invention carefully. The wooden box remained on the workshop table, a symbol of opportunity and hope. The simple cowboy with the loyal dog had begun a journey that would change his life, and perhaps the lives of many others. He knew it would not be easy, but he also knew that patience, determination, and honesty could achieve more than wealth or mockery ever could. The following morning, The sun rose slowly over the hills, casting golden light on Tom's small ranch. Max ran ahead, chasing the shadows of birds as they moved across the field. Tom followed, carrying tools and materials for the next project. The wooden box from the auction sat on the workshop table, a constant reminder of the opportunity he had been given. Each day he felt more determined to turn the papers inside into inventions that could help many people. Tom decided to start a new project. This one was a device that could help farmers water their fields more efficiently. He studied the plans carefully, taking measurements and making notes in his small notebook. Max sat nearby, watching each movement with keen eyes. Occasionally he barked softly, almost as if he understood the work. Tom laughed quietly. Max had always been a loyal companion, and he seemed to sense the importance of every task. Word of Tom's work had begun to spread through the town. People who had once laughed at him now looked on with curiosity and interest. Neighbors stopped by, asking questions and watching him carefully. Some offered simple tools or extra wood, which Tom accepted politely. He explained his work with patience, showing how each invention could make life easier. People began to realize that the cowboy with the dusty boots and worn hat was not just hard-working. He was clever, skilled, and determined. By midday, Tom had completed the first version of the watering device. It was simple but effective. Water flowed through small channels, reaching every part of the field without waste. Tom tested it carefully, adjusting small parts to ensure it worked perfectly. Max barked happily, running in circles and wagging his tail. Tom smiled. The dog's excitement mirrored his own, and for a moment the world felt peaceful and full of promise. Later that day, a few townspeople came to visit. They were the same people who had whispered and laughed at Tom during the auction. Now their expressions were filled with curiosity and surprise. "I didn't think you could do this," one of them said quietly. Tom looked at him with a gentle smile. "It's not about what people think," he replied. "It's about patience and trying your best." The neighbors stayed for a while, asking questions and examining the small watering device. They were impressed by Tom's careful work and clear explanations. Max moved among them, friendly and alert, making sure everyone felt welcome. Slowly, the town began to see Tom differently. The simple cowboy they had underestimated was now someone to admire and respect. As the sun began to set, Tom cleaned his tools and prepared for the next project. There were still many designs in the wooden box, each one more interesting than the last. He decided to work on a water purifier next, a device that could provide clean drinking water for families. He knew it would take time and careful work, but Tom had learned patience from years on the ranch. Max sat close by, watching his master with loyalty and trust. Night fell, and the ranch was quiet except for the soft sounds of Max moving around and the faint creak of the workshop door. Tom worked under the warm light of a small lamp, focusing on the plans in front of him. He measured, cut, and adjusted, making sure every piece fit perfectly. The water purifier began to take shape, and Tom felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This was more than work. This was a way to help others and use his skills for something meaningful. During this time, a few people from the town began talking about Tom's inventions. They shared stories about the watering device and how clever the designs were. Even those who had once laughed at him started to respect his determination and intelligence. Some wondered how a simple cowboy could understand such complicated ideas. But Tom did not let their surprise bother him. He had learned long ago that talent and hard work were more important than appearances. By the end of the week, Tom had completed a working model of the water purifier. He tested it carefully, ensuring it worked exactly as the designs described. Clean water flowed steadily, and Tom felt proud of his accomplishment. Max barked once, wagging his tail as if celebrating the success. Tom laughed quietly and patted him on the head. Together, they had taken another step toward something bigger. Tom realized that the wooden box had changed his life in more ways than one. It had not only given him the chance to work on valuable designs, but also shown the people around him that appearances could be misleading. The laughter of the past seemed distant now, replaced by curiosity, respect, and admiration. Max rested at his feet, loyal and patient, ready for whatever came next. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Tom looked out over his fields. He knew that the work ahead would be challenging, but he was ready. With patience, honesty, and determination, he could turn the designs in the wooden box into inventions that would help many people. The simple cowboy and his loyal dog had begun a journey that was only just starting, and the future looked bright with possibility. The next morning, Tom woke early. The sun was just rising, casting soft golden light over his small ranch. Max jumped up from his bed of straw, wagging his tail excitedly. The dog knew it was going to be another busy day. Tom had decided to show one of his inventions to the townspeople. He wanted them to understand that the wooden box from the auction was not just a simple collection of papers, but a source of ideas that could help everyone. He carried the water purifier he had built into the town square. The people were just beginning their morning routines when they noticed him walking in with Max. Some of the same neighbors who had laughed at him during the auction were there. They paused, curious, as Tom set the device on a table. Max sat calmly by his side, looking alert and confident. Tom smiled and began to explain. "This is a water purifier," he said. "It can clean water using simple tools and materials. It does not need electricity or expensive machines. It is easy to make and easy to use. People can have clean water without spending a lot of money." At first, the townspeople were silent. They had expected a small toy or a simple trick. But as Tom showed them how the purifier worked, their expressions changed. Water flowed through the device and came out clean and clear. Some of the townspeople whispered to each other, impressed by what they were seeing. A woman stepped forward and asked, "Where did you learn to make something like this?" Tom looked at her calmly and said, "I learned from experience, from patience, and from thinking carefully. The plans in the box helped me understand what is possible." Max barked softly and the woman smiled. The dog's presence made the demonstration feel warm and friendly. Word spread quickly. Soon more people gathered around Tom and Max. They asked questions, wanting to understand how the device worked and how they could build one themselves. Tom showed them each part patiently, explaining in simple words so everyone could follow. Max moved among the crowd, friendly and protective, making sure no one felt uncomfortable. A few children were especially excited. They watched Tom carefully, following each movement with wide eyes. He let them help by passing small tools and pieces, teaching them how each part worked. The children laughed with joy as they tested the water purifier themselves. For the first time, many townspeople began to see Tom not as a simple cowboy, but as a teacher, an inventor, and a clever thinker. As the day continued, some of the townspeople who had been skeptical approached Tom. They wanted to see more. Tom smiled and invited them to his workshop. Max ran ahead, excited for the new visitors. Inside the workshop, the wooden box sat on the table, open and waiting. Tom carefully spread out more papers and explained the plans for the next invention, a small device to help farmers water their crops efficiently. The visitors were amazed. They had not expected such detailed designs from someone they thought was just a simple cowboy. Tom showed how the device worked, demonstrating its features and explaining why it was useful. The townspeople nodded in understanding, realizing that his work could make their lives easier. Even the adults who had laughed at Tom during the auction could not hide their surprise. They watched quietly, asking questions and listening to every word. Some of them admitted that they had judged him unfairly. Tom smiled politely. "It is easy to judge someone by appearances," he said. "But what matters is what a person does, not how they look." Max barked softly, as if agreeing completely. By the end of the day, many people in town had begun to respect Tom. They understood that he had skill, knowledge, and patience. They realized that the wooden box had been more than just a gift. It was an opportunity that Tom had turned into something valuable for everyone. Max lay at Tom's feet, content and loyal, as the people left with new ideas and a fresh sense of admiration for the cowboy and his inventions. Tom felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. He had not needed to show off, argue, or prove himself. His work had spoken for him. The laughter from the auction had faded, replaced by respect and curiosity. Max nudged him gently with his nose, reminding him that their journey was just beginning. As the sun set, Tom looked over his small workshop in the wooden box. He knew that there were still many designs to explore, and many more inventions to create. The townspeople now understood that he was someone with vision, skill, and determination, and he knew that with patience, honesty, and hard work, he could continue to make a difference in the lives of many people. Tom patted Max on the head and smiled. The simple cowboy and his loyal dog had begun to change not just their own lives, but the town around them. The journey was far from over, but for the first time Tom felt that people truly saw him for who he really was. The morning sun rose gently over the hills, filling Tom's small ranch with warm light. Max was already awake, circling the workshop and barking happily at the birds. Today Tom felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. His inventions had started to attract attention from the town, and he wanted to show that they could be useful to even more people. Tom began his day by checking the devices he had built so far. The water purifier worked perfectly, and the small farming tool for watering crops was ready for demonstration. He tested each one carefully, making minor adjustments where needed. Max sat nearby, eyes bright and alert, watching every movement with loyalty and focus. Tom often smiled at the dog. Max had been by his side through everything, from the quiet days on the ranch to the laughter and mockery at the auction. By mid-morning, a small crowd of townspeople had gathered outside his workshop. Word had spread quickly that the cowboy was doing something extraordinary. Many of those who had laughed at him before were now curious. They wanted to see what he was building and how it worked. Tom welcomed them politely, inviting them to watch and learn. Max wagged his tail happily as if understanding the importance of the moment. Tom started by showing the water purifier again, explaining in simple words how it could provide clean drinking water without expensive equipment. The people listened carefully, nodding as they understood its value. Then he moved to the farming device, demonstrating how it could water plants evenly and save effort. Children in the crowd helped him pass small parts, and adults watched closely, impressed by his careful instructions and patient teaching. A few people who had been skeptical began to ask questions. "Where did you learn to do all this?" one man asked. Tom smiled. "I have always enjoyed building and solving problems. These plans from the wooden box help me understand how to make ideas real. But anyone can do it with patience and care," he explained. Max barked softly, standing close by as if supporting every word his master said. The crowd grew larger as more people arrived. Even visitors from nearby towns came to see the cowboy and his inventions. They had heard about the auction and the mysterious wooden box. Some of them were curious, others skeptical, but all watched quietly as Tom demonstrated each device. By the end of the morning, the crowd had grown so big that the little workshop felt lively and full of excitement. During a short break, one of the visitors, a businessman from a nearby city, stepped forward. He had a serious expression on his face. "I must admit I didn't expect this from a simple cowboy," he said. Tom looked at him calmly. "It is not about appearances," he replied. "What matters is effort, patience, and using your skills to help others." Max barked softly, drawing a small laugh from the businessman. He seemed surprised by the dog's friendly and intelligent nature. The businessman spent the afternoon watching Tom work. He asked questions about the designs, the materials, and how the devices could be made on a larger scale. Tom explained everything clearly, showing his careful measurements and the reasoning behind each decision. The crowd watched quietly, listening and learning. People who had once laughed now whispered to each other in admiration. Tom had turned curiosity and determination into something tangible and meaningful. By late afternoon, Tom had finished setting up a new prototype, a simple energy-saving device designed to help families use less fuel for cooking. He demonstrated how it worked, and the crowd responded with quiet amazement. Even children were clapping and pointing with excitement. Tom explained how the device could make life easier without spending much money, and adults nodded in agreement. Max sat nearby, watching each reaction, wagging his tail proudly. As the sun began to set, the crowd slowly dispersed, talking among themselves about what they had seen. The laughter and mockery from the auction were long gone. In their place was respect and curiosity. People had realized that Tom was more than a cowboy. He was a thinker, an inventor, and someone with a vision for helping others. Max barked once and nudged Tom, as if reminding him that there was still more work ahead. Tom looked at the wooden box on the workshop table. It had started this journey, but the real work was only beginning. He knew that there were still many designs inside, waiting to be built and shared with the world. With patience, effort, and Max by his side, he could continue turning ideas into inventions that would make life better for many people. The simple cowboy who had once been laughed at had become someone people admired, respected, and wanted to learn from. Tom felt calm and proud as he watched the sun disappear behind the hills. Max lay down at his feet, tired but happy. The day had been long and the work had been challenging, but it had also been rewarding. Tom knew that the future The days passed quickly and Tom's work continued with steady focus. Max remained by his side, always alert, always loyal. The wooden box from the auction sat open on the workshop table, filled with designs that promised new inventions. Tom carefully studied each plan, imagining how it could improve life for the people in his town and beyond. He worked patiently, knowing that good results took time. Word of his inventions began to spread beyond the town. People from nearby villages started visiting, curious to see the cowboy who had amazed the townspeople. They had heard stories of the water purifier, the farming device, and the energy-saving tool. Many were skeptical, expecting something simple or ordinary, but they soon realized that Tom's work was extraordinary. Max greeted them warmly, running around their feet and bringing small tools to Tom as if he were helping the visitors understand the workshop. One morning, a group of businessmen arrived. They had come from the city, eager to see if the stories were true. They watched quietly as Tom demonstrated the water purifier. The device worked perfectly and the crowd gasped in surprise. Tom explained each part carefully, showing how it was simple to make and easy to use. Max barked softly, reminding everyone that this was a friendly demonstration. A businessman stepped forward, his eyes wide with interest. "This is impressive," he said. "Who taught you to do all this?" Tom smiled calmly. "I have learned by observing, thinking, and practicing," he said. "The designs from the box helped me understand the possibilities. Anyone can learn if they try and stay patient." Max barked once, as if agreeing. The crowd laughed quietly, but now the laughter was warm, not mocking. Tom then moved to demonstrate a new prototype, a small machine that could help farmers plant seeds evenly. The visitors watched closely as he carefully explained each step. Children who had come along helped him pass small parts, learning how to assemble them. Adults observed, asking questions and nodding in admiration. For the first time, many of the visitors began to see that a simple cowboy could do remarkable things. As the day continued, the crowd grew larger. People came from farther villages, bringing friends and family to witness the work of the quiet man who had once been laughed at. Tom remained calm and focused, never showing pride or arrogance. He knew the value of patience and honesty, and he wanted everyone to understand the inventions, not just admire them. Max moved among the visitors, playful but careful, making sure the workshop felt welcoming to everyone. By evening, Tom had demonstrated several of the inventions. The townspeople and visitors were amazed. Many realized that they had underestimated him before. The laughter that had followed him at the auction had disappeared completely. Now there was respect, curiosity, and admiration. Some of the people even asked if he could teach them how to make the devices themselves. Tom smiled gently. "I can show you," he said. "Anyone can learn if they try and pay attention." Later, a visitor from the city approached Tom quietly. "You have something special," he said. "Have you considered showing these inventions to a wider audience? People need to see what you can do." Tom thought for a moment. He had not wanted attention before. He cared more about helping others and using his skills honestly. But now he realized that sharing his work could help even more people. Max barked softly at his side, as if encouraging him to take the next step. Tom decided to prepare for a demonstration in the city. It would be a chance to show that the ideas from the wooden box were not just clever, but truly valuable. He knew it would be challenging to take his simple inventions to a larger stage, but he also knew that patience, practice, and honesty could help him succeed. Max stayed close, ready to travel with him and provide the loyal support he had always given. As the sun set over the hills, Tom looked at the workshop, the wooden box, and Max. The journey had been long and the laughter at the auction seemed like a distant memory. He felt proud, not because of attention or wealth, but because he had stayed true to himself, worked patiently, and created something meaningful. Max barked once and wagged his tail as if agreeing completely. Together they were ready for the next challenge, the moment when everyone would truly see the cowboy's talent and heart. The evening sky turned deep blue, filled with stars. Tom cleaned his tools and prepared for the journey ahead. Max curled up nearby, resting but alert. Tom knew that the road ahead would be full of challenges, but he was ready. He had patience, skill, and a loyal companion. The simple cowboy who had been laughed at had grown into someone people respected. Soon the world would understand who he truly was. The day of the city demonstration finally arrived. Tom and Max had traveled carefully, taking small roads and quiet paths to reach the bustling city. Max seemed excited by all the new sounds and smells. Tom carried the wooden box carefully, knowing it contained designs that could change how people lived. This was the moment he had been preparing for, the moment when people would finally see what he could do. The demonstration hall was large and filled with curious spectators. Many of them had heard stories about the cowboy from the auction and the townspeople who had witnessed his inventions. Some were skeptical, expecting a simple man with little skill. Others were curious and hopeful. Tom looked around calmly, Max sitting quietly at his side. The dog's presence brought him comfort and confidence. The event began and Tom stepped forward. He introduced himself simply. "My name is Tom," he said. "I am a cowboy and I have always loved to build things that help people. Today I want to show you some inventions that can make life easier and better for everyone." Max barked softly, drawing a few smiles from the audience. Tom started with the water purifier. He explained in clear, simple words how it worked and why it was useful. He showed how anyone could make one with small tools and simple materials. Water flowed through the device, coming out clean and clear. The audience gasped in surprise. Many had expected nothing special, but the demonstration proved otherwise. Children clapped and adults nodded, impressed by the simple but effective design. Next, Tom demonstrated the small farming device. He explained how it could water crops efficiently, saving time and effort. He let a few audience members try it themselves, showing how easy it was to use. Max moved among them, friendly and attentive, as if helping everyone understand the invention. People whispered among themselves, amazed that a cowboy could create such useful tools. Then, Tom carefully set up the energy-saving device. He explained how it worked, and why it could help families use less fuel. The audience listened closely, watching as the device operated smoothly. Many people began to clap quietly, realizing that Tom had not only skill but also vision. He was not building for wealth or fame, he was building to help others. Max barked happily, running in small circles and bringing attention to the demonstration. Finally, Tom revealed the last and most important invention, a device designed to help communities with both water and energy needs. He explained each part carefully, showing how it worked in harmony with the other devices. The audience was silent, staring in awe. They could not believe that someone so simple in appearance had created such clever and useful inventions. Max sat proudly beside Tom, as if aware that this was the moment everyone would understand the truth. A man from the front row, who had been skeptical at first, stood up and said, "I admit I underestimated you, Tom. These inventions are incredible. Who would have thought a cowboy could do this?" Tom smiled gently. "It is not about who I appear to be," he said. "It is about patience, hard work, and trying to use your skills for good. Anyone can do this if they focus and care about helping others." The crowd erupted in applause. People who had doubted him before were now inspired and respectful. Tom had shown that true talent and determination could not be judged by clothes, appearance, or wealth. Max barked again as if celebrating the moment with his master. Tom looked at his loyal companion and smiled. Together, they had turned laughter and doubt into respect and admiration. After the demonstration, several visitors came forward to shake Tom's hand. They asked questions, offered help, and expressed their admiration. Tom answered each politely, explaining the importance of patience, honesty, and careful work. He did not boast or show pride. He simply shared what he had learned and created. Max moved among the visitors, calm and friendly, adding warmth to the atmosphere. By the evening, the demonstration was over. Tom and Max returned to their small hotel room, tired but happy. The city had seen what the cowboy could do, and the world had begun to understand who he really was. Tom looked at Max and patted his head. "We did it," he said softly. Max barked once, tail wagging, as if agreeing completely. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Tom thought about the journey that had brought him here. From the auction where people laughed, to the small workshop on his ranch, to this moment in the city, he had stayed true to himself. He had worked patiently, used his skills wisely, and remained honest. And in the end, that was what truly mattered. The next morning, Tom and Max prepared to return home. They knew the journey of invention and discovery would continue, but now people everywhere would see that courage, patience, and determination could make even the simplest person extraordinary. The cowboy who had once been laughed at had finally shown the world who he really was, and it was a moment of